How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
My fellow Americans, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number, 877-973-7425, should you wish to be on this program. I am just discombobulating everything on the show. This is, we survey the audience a lot. And the number one reason people say they tune in is because you never have any idea what I'm going to say about anything, let alone what I'm going to talk about. And you know what's surprising? Me too. I get in here like I got my show outline. Like right now, I'm going to talk about we're on the brink of war in the Middle East, and I'll get there. But I'm not going to talk about it at the moment. I'm going to talk about my air conditioner. Bear with me on this. So, my wife and I live in a house that I think was built in 2007. One day when I get fiscally responsible and save the money, I'm going to buy some land and build a house. If any of you billionaires listening just want to like send me a nice gift, I'm happy to start the process now. But until then, we're waiting. So we live in a house. We didn't buy the house or build the house. We bought it in 2011. Probably around 2015 or so, we replaced the upstairs air conditioner. Well, night before last, I woke up at 2 a.m. sweating downstairs. And the downstairs air conditioner was not blowing cold air. Now, thankfully, for a very long time, I did my show out of my house. And I had like a little portable window unit. You could roll up next to a window and stick a little thing in the window. And so I went and found that in my home office, dragged it into the guest bedroom. I was sleeping in the guest bedroom. My wife, she did not get mad at me. My wife and her chemo sometimes, if she can't sleep well, I sleep downstairs because I toss and turn in my sleep a lot, and it makes her mad, and I don't want to die. So, sleeping in the guest bedroom. Turn that thing on. Thankfully, it cools the room down, but I got like 3 hours of sleep, and it was hot last night. So the guy tells me, he's like, we could fix this, but there's a problem. The government, you've got an upstairs unit that's less than 10 years old. Now, this one was put in 2007 when the house was built. It's a ream downstairs, a carrier upstairs. Says, and so the carrier upstairs uses a newer type of Freon than the one downstairs, but now the government is making us change to an even different one. So the Freon that your downstairs unit uses is extremely hard to find and expensive, and you can't even use the Freon that's in the new air conditioner, and so we need to probably put a new unit in, and it's got to be an even newer unit with newer Freon. And all I could think is Democrats really do hate poor people. Democrats really hate poor people, but it's not just them. So J.D. Vance gave a speech yesterday where he was talking about cheap, disposable imposter toasters, and we've sacrificed the American industrial workforce for a cheap toaster. You're damn right we have. I don't want to pay for a super expensive toaster, and neither do you. And I can't make a toaster, or you can't make a toaster in this country for as cheap as they can be made in Costa Rica, Taiwan, China, Vietnam, or somewhere else. Do you really want to get more Americans to work in the industrial space making toasters as opposed to just buying a cheap one made in Costa Rica? Do you really? Because you're going to jack up the price on the poor. And you can say all you want that, well, they're going to make more money in these jobs, but are they going to move to the industrial Rust Belt and take those jobs, or are they going to stay where they are and suddenly have to pay a premium on a toaster because they can't get a cheap toaster anymore? No. And I've got I have friends who are professional contrarians who are like, well, the trade-offs have been so bad and we never want to actually talk about the trade-offs. No, I don't want to talk about the trade-offs because I want the cheap toaster, and so do you. I don't want the made in the USA $300 toaster, which you can buy from Wolf ovens. Wolf, one day I want a massive 60-inch Wolf oven with the two ovens that has the griddle in the middle and the 8 burners, and it's gas, and I want that. I covet that. Yes, I covet. Forgive me, Lord. But they make a toaster, and their toaster is 100% made in the USA, every component. It's $300. Surely, Erickson, you can go buy a $50 toaster, but I have a $10 toaster made in Costa Rica. I don't want the $20 or the $50 toaster. But then that gets me back to the air conditioner. So a poor person in this country who lives in a house that has central heating and air, they don't have the inefficient window unit. They actually have a central heating and air. And something happens to their old unit now. They can't just add coolant to the old unit because now the government says that the Freon that they have to use is incompatible with their old unit. So they're going to spend thousands of dollars they don't have to replace their AC, as opposed to just the coil and some coolant. The Green New Deal, the green agenda, is a war against poor people and a war against families. Look, we don't have to rehash this, but I am. I'm on record saying I agree with the single cat woman critique of J.D. Vance, but it's not a helpful thing. And here's why it's not helpful, just to reiterate this. I know many, many women who cannot have kids. I have spent years working in the pro-life community and talking with groups, including groups of women who have dedicated their lives to helping other women with kids who they themselves cannot have kids. And they take the single cat woman comment personally, and they know it's not meant about them. They know what Vance is meaning. And what he means is that we as a society should have an obligation to perpetuate our society. And families matter. And we should not devalue and degrade families because the families are perpetuating the species and perpetuating the country. And he's right on that. But when you start talking about single cat ladies, women who can't have kids, they read themselves into that, and they know you don't mean them, but they still take it personally. And it's a cruel critique, particularly for a woman who would love to have a child. And then this country refuses to make adoption affordable. The government refuses to help make adoption affordable. You know how much it costs to adopt a kid in this country? It's like $40,000. It precludes a lot of people who would like to be parents from being parents because an adopted child is essentially a luxury item, and it doesn't feel like a luxury item to anyone, but it costs $40,000, so good luck. It's cheaper to do a foreign adoption, except the Obama administration and now the Obama administration, now the Biden administration, have tried to drive up the costs on foreign adoption. The Trump administration lowered the costs through government subsidy, taxes, tax breaks, and things like that. And Biden's gotten rid of all that and jacked up the cost of a foreign adoption. There are people who'd like to have kids. The green economy and the Green New Deal and the climate change agenda disincentivize you having kids. Just think about your car. I go to church with people who have 5 and 6 kids. I have a friend who has 12 kids. Cheaper by the dozen. Got a friend who has 12 kids. They have a 15-passenger van. They're not cheap. But I have a friend who has 6 kids, and they drive a Suburban. And, you know, the left is doing everything they can to eliminate large SUVs because it's bad for the environment, don't you know? What they're trying to do is force you into smaller and smaller vehicles, and so you yourself can't have a lot of kids. It actually is a war on kids. It's not a coincidence that the left's climate agenda and death cult of transgenderism collide, where they want to sterilize your kids so they can't have kids. They want to disincentivize you having kids. They want to drive up your costs. And part of that is your cost of home ownership and your joy in life. I'm going to have to probably replace this this unit. It's old. It was put in 2007. It's lasted a long time. It's going to be thousands of dollars, and thankfully I've got the money. A lot of people don't, though. What I should be able to do, and even what the air conditioner guy told me to do, is given the situation, I should be able to replace a part. But the problem is, because of the Freon regulations of the government and the availability of parts and the availability of the Freon, ultimately the odds are this is going to happen again, and I'm not going to be able to do anything. So I've got a newer unit in the upstairs, and the Freon that uses is already outdated by the government. The Freon in the downstairs unit is way outdated and harder to find and less common. And they're pushing me to have to make a decision that I don't want to have to make. And thankfully, I can afford it. But think about the poor person. Think about the gas stove. They want to ban the gas stove or the water heater, a higher-end efficient water heater. Think about the light bulb. Think about the light bulb for a minute. I actually like the LED light bulbs. I do. They're bright. They last forever. But they're also more expensive. Now, they've come down in price, but they're still more expensive than an incandescent bulb. And a lot of poor people have to make the economically disadvantaged choice of going with the light bulb that they can afford right now instead of the one that may last them 5 years because it's more expensive. They know over time they're going to spend more money on the incandescent light bulbs, but right now they don't have the $20 they need for the pack of the LEDs, but they do have the $5 for the pack of 6 of the regular incandescent light bulb. But now they can't buy the incandescent light bulb because they've been banned. Thomas Edison's great invention, banned by the federal government in order to save the planet, not save poor people. It's not just an inconvenient. The Green New Deal is a burdensome tax on poor families. The Green New Deal and the climate agenda is an anti-family and anti-poor agenda funded and fueled by a bunch of wealthy people. It's the Rockefellers. It's the Vanderbilts. It's the Carnegies. It's their descendants who are pushing the Just Stop Oil campaign. It's those people and their descendants, wealthy, privileged people who can afford their private planes and afford their mansions, who don't want you to get out of poverty. They don't want you to have children. They don't want you to perpetuate your family values, your family species, your country. They don't want you to do any of that. And so they have used the Democratic Party to drive up your costs, and too many Republicans have followed along with them. Look at that windmill situation off of, what is it, Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket. The windmills have started collapsing. The Biden administration sped up the regulatory process to put them in, and now they're collapsing and shedding debris all over the beaches. Not useful, not helpful, not environmentally friendly ultimately. But the left decided to go forward with it. Great industries like fossil fuels and fracking that provide good paying jobs for Americans, they want to get rid of it. Kamala Harris wants to get rid of it. Now she says today, because it's a problem winning Pennsylvania, she says no. But she's, for her entire career, supported getting rid of fracking until suddenly she needs Pennsylvania as a swing state. So wink, wink, nod, nod. Trust me, I'm abandoning the position I had for 10 years in favor of one that's new and shiny today. Trust me, I'm not going to change my mind again. The left continues to drive up the costs. And this gets to J.D. Vance's point that the left has refused to acknowledge or embrace as legitimate. So much government regulation is anti-family and disincentivizes people having kids. And there are people in this country who don't want kids, and we should not bully and badger them into having kids. And there are people in this country who cannot have kids, and we should be sympathetic to them. And if they wish to adopt, we should make it very affordable for them to adopt, because it's a social good to have a family and to be raised in a family. But there are a lot of government regulations and a lot of government policies that are very anti-family and drive up costs. I disagree with Vance on the industrial policy that would force us to buy expensive American toasters, because that would actually hurt more people than it helps. Far more people would have the cost of a toaster to deal with than they would to get a job making the toaster. But there's a lot of government regulation that also makes it impossible for a toaster company to set up shop in the United States without having to charge ridiculous prices. And we might be able to make a toaster in this country more people would want to buy if we got rid of all the government regulations and burdens on businesses that drive up costs and are ultimately at war with the ability of people to have a family when they want a family. Government makes it too expensive to raise a family in this country, and it actually is a government problem, and it's one, at least there's a political party out there willing to deal with that issue and understand that, yes, more people could have families if they want families, except the federal government makes it too burdensome. Welcome back. Let me go to Wesley, who's been waiting patiently here on the phones. Wesley, Charlie told me to shut up and take a phone call because you've been waiting for a long time. Not really, but welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What's going on?
Yeah, so I was just listening earlier to what you were saying about. I understand you said your white is athletic socks, right? So
Yep.
You can't really comment on racial issues like how you like to. But this is my question to you, because I've asked. Literally, I was just at the barbershop the other day, and I asked a couple of people. I talked to people, and no one could give me an answer in our community or likewise. Why is it okay for Joe Biden to tell an interviewer that if you have to choose between Donald Trump and me, then you ain't black, right? He can literally say that and get away with it. But then it's not okay for Trump to question ethnicity of Kamala Harris. You follow me?
Oh, yeah.
What exactly, in your opinion, what exactly happened? And I get it. The Democrats pander to the black vote, and we're a monolith and all of that. But we're not everyone's like that. But at the end of the day, what do you think happened? What was the breakdown between the 60s Democrats and what's going on right now?
Oh,
why is he allowed to get away with that, and we all vote for him as opposed to like Trump?
Yeah. So the answer is very simple. Joe Biden has a D next to his name and Donald Trump has an R next to his name. So the media holds them to double standards. Joe Biden told people that Mitt Romney is going to put him back in change. Now, change. There's a longer issue here. And stick with me on the other side of the break, because I do want to spend a little more time on this than what I have right here. Right now, I need to remind you guys about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack sales. It's happening right now. You can get 3 of them for less than $200, and you save $200. All you do is go to EdenPureDeals.com, and you put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3. And you can get 3 of them. Now, what is it? It's an air purifier, so it traps the pollen and the dust floating in the air. But it also, the way I use it, it's an odor eliminator. It generates ozone that can get where you can't to eliminate odors. Attracts and attacks the ions that are the smells you smell, whether it's dirty diapers or a wet dog or a litter box or musty odors or kitchen fry odors or smoke odors. Excellent at smoke odors. And it just wipes them out. Your air smells new and clean. You go to EdenPureDeals.com and you use the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3, and you can wipe out odors today with 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms. You save $200. You get them for less than $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson. There is some breaking news. Multiple media reporters saying that Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania has canceled all of his out-of-state travel over the next few days. That's notable because it's looking more and more like he might be Kamala Harris's pick for the vice president. If so, makes Pennsylvania harder for the Trump campaign to win. It has 18 electoral college votes. Both sides really need it. Trump has been headed in that direction. So, yeah. So keep an eye out for Joshua. It might not be him. There are actually people on the left who really don't want him to be it.
The challenge with Shapiro, with progressives, is that he labeled peaceful college protesters. He compared them to KKK. Mm-hmm. That's wrong, Chris.
I know, to you.
Yes.
He would argue.
And others.
I am against the radical fringe of my party on the left.
KKK lynch.
I'm a moderate.
Come on now, Chris. We got to stop playing games with these people. Now, you might not have liked the college protesters, but comparing any college protesters to the mayhem and the destruction and the death that was caused by the KKK, really?
It's too much. People likening things to the KKK that are nowhere close, disgusting. I feel the same way about the Nazi and the Hitler.
I do
stuff.
too.
Cheap and
It's wrong.
Yes.
That's Nina Turner, far left activist. Progressive activists really don't like the idea of Josh Shapiro because he's Jewish. And let's just be honest here, it's because he's Jewish. And there are some Democrats who think that if you pick him, it puts Michigan in play for Donald Trump because of the Arab American community in Dearborn, Michigan, and elsewhere. I think that's overstated, but nonetheless. All right, Ann has been waiting very patiently, and I want to go to her phone call here. Ann, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Eric.
Sure.
So many points came up while you spoke. One, the big one I called in is we have to stay focused. I'm really nervous about this election. And when President Trump was in North Carolina, I watched as he just repeated, I have so many people. You're beautiful. I love North Carolina. Laura's beautiful. And I was like, oh, my gosh, fight or flight came up. You got to stay focused on a message. We are in trouble. And so back to kind of talking about the yucky people on social media. We each are influencers, but I'm in Georgia, and her commercials right now make my head spin because I'm sure you've seen them. They have 4 key points, and it's she fought child exploitation, women's reproductive rights, stood up to big business, and capped insulin. And I'm like, that's it? If I saw your resume on LinkedIn, I would feel like, no, you're not qualified to be the president of the United States of America. So I think that message of clarity of message, she is unqualified. You can, all of the distraction about race, female, all of that, it's what you just said. It's complete distraction, and it makes us look just angry and wrong. So, we're surrounded by moderates. Stay on clarity of message, stay focused. And that's the only way to fight this. But please, dear God, let them get a more powerful commercial, because that one drives me crazy.
Yeah, so listen, I'm glad you said it, because it really deeply frustrates me. And like, honestly, and thanks for the phone call and for being as patient as you were. Republicans have been saying since February that Joe Biden was going to be replaced. Since February, that became the regular talking point of Republicans, so much so that you had Jonathan Martin at the Politico and others writing, actually, that's not how politics works. Joe Biden's going nowhere. And Republicans are like, no. This is he's going to get replaced. And it's probably going to be Kamala Harris. So why, for the love of all that is decent and holy, why weren't the Republicans prepared for this? It's so frustrating. And now, on top of that, this is what I actually wanted to talk about this hour. I don't know if you know this or not, but the situation in the Middle East is beginning to spiral out of control. And naturally, Israel gets the blame. Listen, after World War II and the revelation of the Holocaust, the extent of the Holocaust, people everywhere said never again. The Nazis attempted to exterminate the Jews. Not just kill, exterminate, to rid the world of Jews. And the world said never again. And ever since, much of the Western world has gone out of their way to find reasons to blame the Jews for everything. The Jews control Hollywood. The Jews control finance. The Jews control all of these things, allegedly. Israel feels alone in the world in large part because you've got a Biden administration that is infested with anti-Semites. There's actually a story out today. Kamala Harris's national security advisor is being probed over ties to an Iranian influence network. That's right. Phil Gordon has ties to Arian Tabatabai, a senior Department of Defense official who was involved in an Iranian government operation to expand Tehran's power in the United States. Gordon co-authored at least 3 opinion pieces with Tabatabai that argued against sanctions on the Iranian regime. Tabatabai was outed last year as an alleged member of an Iranian-run influence network that reported back to Tehran's foreign ministry. Tabatabai's connections to Gordon fuel concerns ahead of the election. Gordon is likely to play a national security role in the Harris White House, and his connections to pro-Tehran advocacy groups suggest the renewed diplomacy with Iran will be a top foreign policy priority for Harris if she gets elected. I want to make this very clear to every single person listening. I do not believe it is a coincidence that Benjamin Netanyahu last week met with Kamala Harris and this week began the full-scale aggressive assassination of every Israeli enemy as fast as possible. They have assassinated people in Syria. They have assassinated people in Lebanon. They have assassinated people in Gaza. They have assassinated people in Tehran. All of this escalated after Benjamin Netanyahu met with Kamala Harris last week. Why do you think that is? And now today comes the revelation that Kamala Harris's own national security team is infested with Iranian sympathizers. The Biden administration, you should note, the Biden administration has refused to discipline and push out many of those identified as part of the Iranian influence network. Some of them still work in the Department of Defense. Some of them have senior positions in the Department of Defense. The Biden administration has done nothing to push out people with known ties to the Iranian foreign ministry. The Biden administration is compromised, and the Harris administration, which is part of the Biden administration, is equally compromised, with now questions being raised about her advisor who would play a role in national security. It is not a coincidence at all. Israel has felt the need to speed up the killing of its opponents. And you can say that Israel is provoking widespread calamity in the Middle East, but it's not Israel. Israel did not want to be attacked on October 7th of last year. There was peace in the Middle East on October 6th. And at sunrise, Israel time, on October 7th, Hamas, orchestrated and funded by Iran with money we've given back to Iran, decided to attack Israel. And now Hezbollah, also funded by Iran, which is funded by money we've given them back, has decided to attack Israel. Israel is surrounded by its enemies, and the Biden administration is hostile itself to Israel. We have put Israel in a position where they feel compelled to go it alone, and whatever happened in that meeting last week with Kamala Harris sure did signal to the Israelis but that they better step it up. Given Kamala Harris's abject and open hostility towards Israel, not just to the Netanyahu administration, but to Israel generally, I don't think it's a surprise. We're headed towards a Middle Eastern war that's going to draw us in. And it has large part to do with the Biden administration refusing to escalate and doing everything possible to deny Israel the right to defend itself and avenge itself. It was the Biden administration that took the Houthis off the terror list, that allowed the Houthi to start getting funded again, that allowed the Houthi to rearm, that allowed the Houthi to start attacking everybody in the Red Sea and Israel and Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. It was the Biden administration that allowed Iran to sell more oil on the market and get that money while the Biden administration acknowledged that all of its money goes to terror. It was Iran that then flowed that money to Hezbollah and Hamas and helped Hamas train for the October 7th attack. All because of the Biden administration's negligence, incompetence, and anti-Semitism. Israel conducted the assassinations over the last 72 hours without telling the American administration, because the last time it told the American administration, the anti-Semites within the administration leaked it to Israel's enemies and to the press that Israel was about to act, and Israel was unable to act. You did know this, right? You did know this. The last time Israel tried to cooperate with the Biden administration and orchestrate a counterattack on its enemies, the Biden administration officials, and we don't know who did it, leaked to the enemies and to the press that the attack was coming and undermined the attack. So Israel can't trust the Biden administration. Not only is it infiltrated by Iranian sympathizers, it's infiltrated by people who hate Jews, not just Israel. It's wild to me that so many people say, oh, it's all about Israel, and yet it also is about Jews. You literally have Democrats arguing that it would be fatal for Kamala Harris to pick the governor of Pennsylvania as her running mate because he's Jewish, and they don't have the guts enough to be that open about it. They come over with excuses, oh, he doesn't like the protests for Gaza. It's because he's Jewish they don't want him. It would actually be to her credit if she picked him. I don't know that she will. But let's be very clear here. The situation that is happening in the Middle East is happening because the Biden administration decided that Israel needed to play with one hand tied behind its back, and Israel's enemies decided that they could attack because of it. And Israel is finally realizing it does not have a friend in the White House, and it is no coincidence whatsoever that the Israeli attacks and assassinations have escalated since Bibi Netanyahu met with Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris's team is infiltrated with Iranian sympathizers and a bunch of anti-Semites. And whatever happened in that meeting sent strong signals back to Israel, you better step this up just in case this woman wins. Because there is no friend of the Jews in Kamala Harris. Her record isn't just anti-Israel, her record is anti-Semitic. Yes, you can say, well, she's married to a Jewish man, Erickson. Yes, she absolutely is. She absolutely is. Doesn't matter compared to her record. Kamala Harris is an opportunist, and opportunistically in the Democratic Party right now, you can't be sympathetic to Israel, and Kamala Harris knows it, and she will say or do anything possible to get elected, and that means abandoning Israel and the Jewish people to their enemies. And so Israel, having met with Kamala Harris last week, has escalated its attacks, and now comes word that one of Kamala Harris's advisors is under investigation for his ties to an Iranian influence network in Washington, D.C. War is coming to the Middle East because the Biden administration is incompetent, inept, and is full of not just Iranian sympathizers, but anti-Semites. You want stability in the Middle East, you need to get rid of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. That's just the truth. Now, you want a great bank, you need Old Glory Bank. They're my bank. I actually have my checking and savings account with Old Glory Bank. They're not just a great bank. They're good people, too. They're conservatives, run by conservatives. They actually don't even want to be publicly traded on the stock market because they know how progressives buy up shares in companies and then use their shareholder clout to push the progressive agenda. And so they're working very hard to firewall themselves from that because they want to be able to protect you so that you're not going to get debanked by Old Glory Bank. They also take care of their veterans and first responders. And if you're active duty first responder, you can get a free death benefit if something happens to you on duty. You can go to oldglorybank.com for more details. You can get a great checking and savings account there. And also for your kids, no fee checking and no fee savings for your kids. Your kids probably more adept and comfortable using an online bank. They're not going to have a branch in your area, but they've made it even possible to deposit cash at the bank. I love them. I really do. Their bill pay is great. Their budgeting tools are great. Everything is great with Old Glory Bank. Oldglorybank.com. Oldglorybank.com. You can get an account in less than 8 minutes at oldglorybank.com. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. Greetings. Welcome. Remember, if you text the word ERICK, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, you, my friends, can get the live stream link, the podcast link. I get questions all the time. I'm traveling. How can I hear the show? Well, We got a website now, ericerickson.com. I finally was able to get that website. I had ericerickson.org, but there was a guy in Florida, an older man in Florida, who made movie masks, like for horror movies and the like. And then he made them for people like reproductions of old masks, Boris Karloff and the like. Apparently did a very good job. And for years he had ericerickson.com. I tried to buy it, and I couldn't buy it. Wouldn't sell it. Wouldn't even consider it. And I don't know if he passed away or not, but it suddenly became available, and I snapped it up. Had to pay a premium for it. But now I finally have my domain, ericerickson.com, .org, .net, if you go, or ewerickson.com as well. If you go to ericerickson.com, there's a live stream button. You can listen. There's the current one until we get everything. We're working. There's a technical issue got to fix. So there's a live stream. If you want to listen to the show 12 to 3 and you're traveling, you want to listen to it live. Then there's the 24/7 stream, which just repeats the 12 to 3 show repeatedly until 3 p.m. the next day, where it picks up the most recent show. All you got to do is text Eric to 33777. You can follow me on social media and all that stuff as well. Of course, next Friday I won't be here because I'll be at the gathering. But until then, you will have me. Now, we still have other stuff to discuss out there. One of those things is the spending, and you need to be aware of this as the polling shifts. There's a 10-to-1 spending advantage right now for the Democrats. For every dollar Republicans are spending in the ad war, Democrats are spending $10. They're spending in TV ads in the Metro Atlanta area, in the Philadelphia and Pittsburgh area, in the Detroit area. They're spending in Madison, Milwaukee, and Waukesha, Wisconsin. The Democrats are spending in Las Vegas hugely. Notice the pattern here. They're spending in the swing states. They're even spending in North Carolina, Raleigh, Durham, Charlotte, Fayetteville, Winston-Salem. They're on the networks there. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Harrisburg. They're spending in. They're spending in Eau Claire, Madison, Milwaukee, Green Bay, and Wisconsin. They're spending in Grand Rapids, Detroit, and Flint in Michigan. They're spending in Carson City, and they're spending in Las Vegas and Reno, covering those markets. They're spending in Phoenix and Tucson. They're spending in Atlanta and Savannah, Georgia. They're making major media plays. They're spending $10 for every dollar the Republicans are spending on TV right now. Why? Because the Republicans do not have a message. Perhaps the Republicans will find an anti-Kamala Harris message that works, that is not about whether she's an Indian or black. But right now, I'm dumbfounded that we don't have the message yet on Kamala Harris. Her record is so easy to just tell people about, and yet they're out spinning us. And also, you go on YouTube now, you're probably going to run into a Kamala Harris ad. So fair warning out there, you might want to step up your giving to the GOP so maybe they can get an ad up.